What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Triple H podcast, Happy Hour Hoops, presented by Trainwreck Sports. Steve, Jake, and myself here for you to talk everything basketball. What's up, fellas? How we doing?
We're doing. Not the best first game for me in the NBA Cup, but you know what?
Yeah.
We're doing. The games have been pretty excited. It's kind of a weird week, Dunny, right? Because we only had a couple games last night. We had a couple games the night before. One game on Monday. We got, I think, 3 games tonight. It's kind of a not so busy NBA schedule, but we got the Cup semis. We got the Cup semis on Saturday, so I'm excited for that.
Oh yeah.
I don't like it for fantasy basketball. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's weird for fantasy.
Yeah, true.
I wish it was a double week or something. Maybe it is. I don't even know, but it should be like a 2-week game. But it's been it was fun. The last couple of nights have been fun. Houston Golden State. I was pretty much locked in for the entirety of the second half last night, like nonstop. So that was nice. Had a lot of thoughts on that game and just the Rockets in general climbing along. But it's been a fun quartet there of quarterfinal games the last couple of days, and I'm excited to get into everything else going on with you guys.
Yeah, it's cool. I've heard a few people refer to this week as like the NBA bye week almost.
It feels that way.
Yeah,
just
honestly.
as a whole, like the whole league's just taking a little break. It's good. We talk about how many injuries we have week to week when we do our news and notes, which we're about to jump into. So I'm sure this helps a lot of teams in that respect. And then, the games have been great. Our 3 big things this week, we're just going to kind of go over the NBA Cup as a whole, preview the games from the last couple of days, and then or review the games from the last couple of days and preview the games for this weekend. So let's get right into the news and notes here. NBA FIBA in serious talks over a new European league. I hadn't even seen this until Jake tossed it in the doc. I believe it was Jake that did that this morning. Yeah. So kind of crazy. We might have a new basketball league on the horizon here, fellas.
Yeah, so the crux of this story is essentially the EuroLeague. The big brands in Europe are kind of fed up with EuroLeague, and Adam Silver has wanted to expand into Europe and have their own league and have their kind of touch on it. There's only really been. You remember Steve, I know, is probably going to remember this. Dunny, do you remember when there was NFL Europe and they had like the different European branded NFL teams? My team in the old Maddens were the Berlin Thunder. That was my squad.
Still think I have trading cards of those.
That's what I imagine this would be like, but except you're not just creating teams out of thin air. You have actual brand like Real Madrid, like basketball, and Barcelona basketball. And so I love this idea for the NBA, and it makes a lot of sense for Silver to want to get involved with. I think it's now 15% of the league right now is European players. Like to have a presence over there. It'd be a thing for like the academies to get involved more as much as anything else. That's kind of the structure they're looking. I like it. It's a great idea, and I would be really interested to see like if that's a way to, as we're going to talk about the NBA Cup later on, would that be a kind of way to spice up the NBA Cup where it's not just a regular season thing, but it becomes a thing that is worldwide with these European teams and NBA teams clashing? I think that's something that a lot of people would be more interested in than just, the way the NBA Cup is currently structured. So there's a lot of exciting things that you could do with it.
Yeah, I kind of think there's a couple of reasons for this. I guess they're kind of both negative reasons. The first thing being that there's no hiding it. NBA ratings are down. They are down. They are down bad this year. They are down very bad. They've been down for looks like the past couple of years. And I think part of that reasoning is because there's so much new talent that we just don't know about. There's so much international talent now that we have no idea about these players. It doesn't have kind of the hype of some of these kind of juggernaut stars when they used to come up years ago when we were kids, Dunny. I mean, the hype of guys like LeBron James coming out of high school, right? Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, stuff like that. Go even back to like the Tracy McGrady days, like the hype those players like garnered. You just don't have it with some of these international guys anymore. And I think to have a new league where you're just going to become more accustomed, right, to certain players before, I guess, the NBA hype. That is where I feel like the NBA kind of lacks right now, is its global presence in terms of just like its national audience not really knowing what some of these prospects are like and what some of these players are, and not really knowing any type of basketball outside of the United States of America, if we're going to be completely honest. And I think to have another league like that, and I think the counter argument is like, why would people care? Why would people care about a European league? Look at soccer.
Yeah.
I mean, look at soccer, right? The Premier League is 9 million times bigger than the MLS, and people have Premier teams that
gambling.
Exactly. That they live and die by, and they know the players like that. And so then, with the NBA, it's like we are, you want to call it like a global league, and you're getting players throughout the world, right? You got players from Australia, you got players from all the European countries, but it's only just focused on NBA is in the United States, and then obviously you have the Toronto Raptors. It just feels like there's such a bigger audience it's not really truly reaching, and it's also not really expanding its target audience right now, which is the target audience for the NBA is people in the United States. When you see other leagues like the NFL and the MLB's ratings going up and the NBA's going down, and not only that, you see college basketball ratings, you see women's college basketball ratings going up, and the NBA's going down, that's a problem, because it's not like people don't care about basketball. It's that there's something going on with the NBA that is just not, maybe they're sick of it, or maybe they're like, we've been seeing these same players for 15 years, right? Who are the three right now, players that are must-see TV when you turn on TV? It's LeBron James, Steph Curry. Like, it's the same guys we've been watching for 15 years. Some people want something new. You want the new car. You want the new toy. And to have a new European league where you could bring in such a different kind of pool of players, a different fan, would be a huge positive. Now you have to get people to want to be invested in that, right? So you got to have stars. You got to have players that people want to watch. But if you look at this just from I don't even want to say save the NBA standpoint, but an idea of like, okay, like why is the NBA trending downward when these other basketball sports are trending upwards? You kind of have to look at the root of the problem and be like, what can we do differently? And a new European league, like I said, is going to bring in an entirely new audience. Not only that, but it will educate other NBA fans on players besides just the stars that we've become accustomed to knowing for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think the biggest thing for me when I was thinking about this is like what the style of play would look like in a league like this. Is it going to be, a hybrid of FIBA and the NBA? Is it going to be more like the NBA, or is it going to be, something that I don't want to say we've never seen before, but just different from the two? Was my biggest thought. And then, I think you brought up a great point, Steve, of just the recognition of some of these European basketball guys. I mean, a guy who's in the NBA right now, who's probably going to go down as one of the best players of all time, was drafted during a fucking Taco Bell commercial.
Right. So, exactly.
This, could help with stuff like that. And then also, I'm sure the three of us, I can speak for, more basketball is never going to be an issue with us.
Right.
So it's exciting for a lot of different reasons. Obviously money's a factor. ratings are a factor, like you mentioned, Steve, which is just crazy every time I see those numbers. I think this is a conversation for another day, but you'd have to think a lot of the reason for the NBA ratings dropping is all the streaming networks and how hard it is to navigate games. And I know we've discussed that before, but yeah, I think this is all good stuff for the most part. I'd be super interested in something like this, and yeah, for sure comparable to what's going on with soccer as well.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Let's get into the rest of the news here. This was a big story yesterday, kind of carried over into today, but Shams, man, he's doing his thing. He's reporting. He said he was talking about Jimmy Butler being interested in all these different teams, Golden State, Houston, Dallas. Then yesterday he mentioned that Phoenix was another one of these teams. Jimmy Butler's agent, started to reply on Twitter, basically directly to Shams. He was kind of quoting his tweets, replying with tweets, just saying this is untrue. Like, make sure you talk to me first. He mentioned something about being a middle-aged dad, and it was basically like a halfway threat. He was like, I'm going to do something. I don't know what it's going to be because I'm a dad, but and it was just like very weird. Shams was kind of being put on blast last night because of this. There was even a community notes on X, saying this may not be true. But then he went on ESPN today and doubled down and said it's a 1,000% true. He said, I'm a professional, and when I get my sources, I make sure I do everything correctly. So it's a kind of a he said right now between Jimmy Butler's agent and Shams. And my initial reaction last night was like, wow, this is a big mistake by Shams here, and he really dropped the ball. But then after his comments on ESPN, I'm like, it's kind of weird to double down like that if you aren't correct. So I'm wondering if Jimmy Butler's agent leaked something that Jimmy wasn't happy with, or he wasn't ready to put out there yet. And so now he's just kind of scrambling to defend himself. I'm all over the place with this, but I gotta lie, I do love the NBA drama any way I can get it.
I think if you're Shams, you have to double down, right? Because you're the guy now. There's no more Woj. It's you, and you're the guy everyone's going for the news when it breaks first. You're the one who's going to get it first, and you're there to get the news before anyone else even has it. And if you're Shams, like, regardless of if the agent came after him or not, or regardless if he was lying in the first place, he has to double down, Duddy. He doesn't have a choice, because how does it look if you're trying to be like the number one, like NBA, like insider, the number one source for the breaking news, that he would go on, like you said, First Take today, and be like, oh no, yeah, he caught me. I was just bullshitting. Like, it would look worse. So he has to double down in that situation, regardless if it the first time maybe he was stretching the truth a little bit. I kind of am more on believing Jimmy Butler's agent than Shams here, because like I said, I think Shams has no choice. He's got to double down either way. He's the one who posted it first. Agent freaked out, and then he doubled down because you have to. But I kind of believe in on the agent side here, man. I don't think he would have gone to that extent if he didn't want those teams out there, or those teams floating out, or really any idea that I think we all kind of have the idea that Jimmy Butler wants to leave Miami, that it's just not kind of working this year. That, Dunny, I said I was going to go down with the ship when it's sinking, and maybe this is the year that the anchors are finally in the water. And maybe I know you'll be celebrating, but in all honesty, right? If you're Jimmy Butler and that ship is sinking, he does bring value to a contending team elsewhere. Absolutely. He doesn't have to be a 1. He doesn't have to be a 2. It could just be a 3. And it would still bring great value to a team as a third option. So I do think that the agent I don't think he wanted it to play out this way, regardless or not, if maybe those are the teams Butler's interested or talking to. Regardless or not, he didn't want probably that information out right now, but Shams put it out there, so Shams has to double down. You can't, if you're Shams, you can't just make that news and then a day later, after someone yells at you, be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun." Shams has to double down. But I'm with Jimmy Butler's agent here, where I think Shams might have jumped the gun a little too prematurely, and he has every right to be upset about that.
I am a little wary of how defensive the agent got so quickly on it, especially considering the client who seems like he would want to have his agent go out and aggressively defend him when asking for a trade to kind of preserve his brand and aura with NBA fans and everything like that. So this very well could all be true, and I think it's a smart move by Jimmy to instruct his agent, hey, go out there and don't, even if it's true, like go lie about this, like throw Shams under the bus, because we don't want to be seen by Heat fans as a guy who's going to flame his way out, because I think Jimmy wants to probably be remembered as a member of the Miami Heat and well loved by I think Jimmy cares about his legacy in Miami, going to 2 finals. He's loved it there. It's kind of in his home. And I think he wants to, specifically with Pat Riley, a guy who holds grudges. Like Pat Riley is not afraid to hold grudges if exits go poorly. C1 James LeBron, like he's still, that relationship is still frosty to this day because of the way LeBron left Miami in 2014. So I think Jimmy is trying to avoid that. Like he wants out and wants to put pressure on Pat Riley to send him out. I'm sure Pat Riley probably thinks this team can still compete. Like that's the way they're built. Is that like Pat wanted to double down and triple down on this roster. So I think it's probably hard for the Heat brass and Riley themselves to give up on this. So it is a little tug and pull, but you could see Jimmy wanting to do it respectfully because he wants to be able to retire and then come back to Miami and you know, have that jersey hung up maybe, or at the very least be a legend that's hanging around the organization and helping out Spoelstra or whatever Jimmy Butler's post NBA career is like. So I think it's like Jimmy and his agent trying to walk a fine line, being like, listen, we're not trying to flame our way out. Maybe they're respectfully working with Pat. Like if this goes downhill further, these are the places we'd like it to be. And they don't want it to turn into a full-blown circus, which Jimmy Butler has had happened before. Jimmy Butler has started full-blown circus. He's initiated these things. So it's a much different approach from the Butler camp for trying to, I think he wants to trade. I ultimately think he wants to trade, but I think they're going about it in this way to show how much of a stark contrast it is from this situation and how he wants to be remembered with the Miami organization and how he did not give a fuck when the Minnesota organization thought about him back then when that happened. And even equally, Philly was kind of, it is what it is because they're just a mess. They're in their own universe of being a mess with the Jimmy Butler situation and anything. So it's interesting. I do think he ultimately gets moved though during this season, no matter what. I don't think it makes sense to keep him around if you're Miami. So
I do too. And just if you haven't seen this, I assume if you're listening, you're probably as tuned in as us with this type of stuff. And Shams was getting killed on Twitter last night, so you might have saw that and looked into it. But if not, Shams basically tweeted last night adding Phoenix to the mix of the other teams that we listed, and then Jimmy Butler's agent quote tweeted it with this: all right, listen, I gave you a pass yesterday because I was busy, but if you don't stop putting my name on your complete and utter made up bullshit because you know you normally aren't worth my time to acknowledge. And then in parentheses it said continued, quote tweeted again and said, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm a middle-aged dad, but just know it would indicate severe dislike. World, all this is fabricated. I've never, and honestly, it wouldn't help me or the position I represent to do anything that's been reported by said journalist, in quotes. Last one here, Shams, this is your opportunity to say, my bad. I let ChatGPT write my tweet and it went old school. I don't know if I know that the name there, Peter Visay.
No, I don't know.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, we gotta do some research too, I guess.
Yeah, that reference went over my head, but Shams, Peter was a writer in the 90s. Okay, so he's making a 90s joke that went over my head. Be a trendsetter, invent the new. I was hacked. Carry on all. Thank you.
That was my favorite line. Was be a trendsetter, invent the new. I was hacked. That was good. So that's the thing is, here's the other option of this is these teams are putting it out there because they all want Jimmy Butler and they've been trying to get in contact through the agent or through some kind of avenue. Shams got wind of it and decided to put out there that, hey, Jimmy has expressed interest or whatever. Like maybe it's something like these teams ask Pat Riley, hey, if you trade Jimmy, would like keep us posted. It could be as simple as that, like the way that they word these things. So it's crazy. But listen, there's another topic into this that we have to get into, because I've never seen anybody press Woj like that. I'm just saying. No, I've never seen somebody press Woj in a tweet like after report, and we are not even 2 full months into this season, and Shams is already getting ousted by agents on
with
X.
legit
this is crazy.
NBA relevancy too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like Shams gets killed by fans all the time, and whoever that may disagree.
So is it a thing that Shams is like, should we be more a little wary of Shams, or is Shams getting disrespected because they think they can bully him? What's the deal here?
Shams got the reader's added context to his post. We've never seen Woj do that, where he got the fact checked, where you usually only see those on the meme accounts or what, where they're trying to bait you into thinking that a big deal happened, or there's someone said something or some rumor. He got the reader's added context to his posts.
It's a tough look.
It's a tough look if you want to try to be the guy, the source for the NBA. That's not a good look. That's not a good look, Shams.
Yeah, it's weird times here. Steve, you kind of brought up my point, a good point about the Woj thing. We've never seen an agent go at Woj like that, or at least publicly anyway. I guess the last thing to discuss here, because I know we're spending some time on it, but these teams, Phoenix, Golden State, Houston, Dallas, Steve, without your bias in the way here, I think I guess I'll start it with this. I think Dallas and maybe Houston, depending on what they have to give up, make the most sense and could actually get, one of those two teams to the next level of contending. I think if Jimmy goes to Phoenix or Golden State, I don't know if that's putting those teams over the edge just because of what they have to offer in return.
I kind of like the Golden State fit, I think, the most, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, because I think Golden State has kind of a lot of guys on that same tier where they don't really know what to do with them, and you could send them back. Dallas, it just feels like you're going to break up a piece of that team that you don't really truly want to break up. And I know, I would rather have the two bigs in Gafford and Lively and have the young guys than go for a Jimmy Butler, because I don't think Dallas is in that our window's closing type of territory where they have to make a move to win in the next 2 years. I think if you're Golden State, you get one last shot with Curry, right? And you look at the team around him, and there's a lot of guys overperforming. I think this is the chance for them to go get a free agent. And I know we've seen the Warriors named with pretty much every player, regardless if they're available or not, it feels like in this season. But I feel like Jimmy Butler would be a good fit because, like I said, he doesn't need to be the one there. He doesn't even need to be the number 2 scoring option. He just needs to be a guy that, when he can take over games at the end. He can go on his stretches. And I think Golden State would actually be a sneaky good fit. Houston is another one, Donnie, too, where we're going to talk about Houston later. They're in the Cup semifinals. And I know that probably doesn't mean too much right now, right? But this is a good young core team with a very, very high ceiling, a lot of potential, and the window's just opening for them. I don't think they're in the mindset right now where we got to go get a vet. I think they have a lot of young players, and you got to grow with your team sometimes. So I think out of the 4 teams we mentioned, Phoenix, Golden State, Dallas, and Houston, I think Golden State actually would make the most sense to me to try to go get Jimmy Butler.
I agree with you, Steve. I think that it just makes sense for the timeline, and it makes sense kind of how, if we're thinking of it big picture, the Warriors have been playing 12 guys all year long. It could just be like showing off a lot of these guys because they want to make a big 3-for-1 move later in this season to get a guy like Jimmy Butler. I think he's perfect for that roster and kind of the mindset that they have. Imagine him and Draymond. Like imagine trying to play those guys mentally in a game. Steve does know ball. We got JVC. That's why he's here. Look at JVC coming in and being such a nice guy to start. What a night.
Someone hacked JVC's account. I don't know who.
JVC jumped in on JVC's.
Shams is on JVC's account right now. JVC's about to freak out later tonight.
I will say, though, Ime Udoka and Jimmy Butler does feel like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
I would love to see that, but I don't know if you mess with that Houston chemistry either. I think you just roll the ball out with. That's the thing with Houston. I don't know if I want them to make any move this year. I kind of just want them to do like what the Thunder did last year. Just roll the ball out for the whole year, see how far you can go, and then look at all your options in the summer and go from there. Like that, you didn't think you guys were going to be like they probably thought they were going to be good. Did they think they were going to be second in the West? I would say no way. Right. No way they thought they were going to be like this high up this early. So just roll the ball out and see what happens with that squad. So I think Golden State definitely is the one to watch, like a Kuminga. And if Kuminga goes to Miami, man, he's going to turn into like a 20 and like 8 guy or something all of a sudden. It's going to be nuts. So could work out for both parties.
I guess my thing for Golden State, I don't, if they get Jimmy Butler, and obviously depending who they give up, but I think even if they don't give up too many like great pieces, I just don't know if they're beating OKC or Dallas when you get to that point of the playoffs. I don't know if this stage of Jimmy Butler's career, if that's a needle mover. Oh, I think he can move the needle for some teams, but this Warriors team, like a big three of Buddy Hield, Steph Curry, and Jimmy Butler, like I'm still taking OKC all day.
Yeah.
I guess that's just where I'm at. And I think the way these reports are sounding and like picking these contenders, I kind of feel the same way about Phoenix. I just like it's just more the same. If it's a deal for Phoenix, it's like you got
Phoenix
Beal,
is crazy if they had Beal,
Jimmy,
Butler, and Durant.
I think my counter to your point, Dunny, though, is that I think almost in every situation we're still probably taking OKC almost every time. And does that mean that, there's a top dog the other team shouldn't try? I completely disagree with that. And I'm looking at, the 4 teams we have mentioned in this Jimmy Butler, I guess, trade talks, and which one do I think would make the most sense to be like, all right, we feel like we have to make a move. And I think that is Golden State. I don't think Phoenix has to. I don't think Dallas has to. I don't think Houston has to. Yeah. And regardless that the Thunder are the 1 seed and that they're the favorite right now to win the West, that doesn't mean that the other 14 teams in the Western Conference are going to wave the white flag in December. And we're talking about a Warriors team. This is the same Warriors team that went out and got Kevin Durant coming off of a 73-win season. This is a team that's going to, go for it. And I think they know that, Curry is probably going to be a Warrior for life. And he's still playing very well at a very high level, but you don't know how much longer that's going to be for. Why are you wasting Curry with, like Jake said, a 12-man rotation when you can go out and try to make a move?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like that'd probably be if I had to pick one where I think he ends up out of these. I'd probably say that. I think if you're looking to win and a team that's just actually trying to get themselves over the hump, I think Dallas would be the best spot to do that. Again, this all depends on packages and what you're willing to give up. Like, I don't think they're going to turn around and trade Clay after they just got him.
Right.
So
I don't think Miami would want Clay.
Right. Also true. Houston, I'm in agreement with you guys. Like, I don't know if you want to fuck with that right now. I think next year's the time. They're basically living a bonus season right now, the Houston Rockets. I don't think Jake said it. Like, they did not think they were going to be this good. We didn't think they were going to be this good. Jake might have thought they were going to be this good. He's been very high on them, but
not this good. I can't take credit for this. Not this good.
It's strange, man. You do bring up a good point about the Warriors, though, Steve, and keeping Steph happy, making sure you're competing at the highest level. So maybe he does end up in Golden State. For what it's worth, Jimmy Butler apparently dyed his hair orange today. So maybe it's the Suns. Who knows? But yeah, we'll have to keep you guys updated on the Shams Jimmy shit, and then of course where Jimmy ends up if he does indeed get traded. All right, now the injury part of the news, which we never like doing, but we'll run through this because we went a little long on Jimmy there. Kawhi is returned to practice, but have you guys seen some of the practice videos of Kawhi? Like, we get a report he's returned.
It's over.
He returned to practice, and it's just a video of him dribbling between his legs with sweatpants on.
Yep.
It's like, okay,
It's
I
over.
practiced on
Just
Saturday.
let me know.
then
Let me know when he's on the court. Well, let me
The
know when he's in
shame
the
is-
starting lineup. Just let me know.
And the shame
I don't
is,
care.
man, this Clippers team that I was ready to make fun of this Clippers team all year. They're actually not that bad, and
Pretty
James
good.
Harden's pretty good,
Yeah,
and
they're
Norm
all right.
Powell is leading their team in scoring. Like they've been fun. They've been a fun team. Like I'm not like if I'm searching for a game and the Clippers are on, I'm not avoiding it like I thought I was going to. I'm putting the Clippers on for a second. So it's a shame that this keeps happening, but I don't think he's ever coming back. Like I don't even know.
Stephen A, like 25 years from now, will have an awesome segment possibly about like what if Kawhi Leonard, because people love what if stories in sports media. And, not to take anything away from the success that he did have early in his career, but I mean, we're talking about a guy when he was in Toronto and did what he did in Toronto, the shit that people were starting to say about this guy, where he might end up in the all-time ranks and just how much he had accomplished at that point. And to where we are now, it just sucks, man. And I'm with you, Steve. Like, I'm waiting for the report when he's back in the lineup. But the return to practice with Kawhi and the videos I'm seeing, it just doesn't really do anything for me right now. So we hope Kawhi can get back to normal eventually, hopefully, but it just doesn't look good right now. LeBron James dealing with foot injury, missed the last game. I think he's supposed to miss tomorrow's game as well. Hopefully that doesn't last too long for the Lakers. Max Strus, Jake, he's
Not back.
returning.
Not back tomorrow, apparently. He was supposed to be back, and now he's out. Yeah, well, they announced that he was back, and now they're announcing he's out, so they're waiting another couple games to put him in. But he's back practicing.
On the way back.
Max Strus now on the way. Yeah, ramping
on
up
the way
back.
Okay, not
point.
Friday.
Not back,
on the way
but
back.
ramping up.
Yes.
They play the Wizards. They're like, we don't need Max to try to go get like 40 against the Wizards. Let's get him in.
Yeah, right.
He needs the rest for this one.
Scotty Barnes to miss several weeks with an ankle injury.
That's tough.
Ingram, same thing with the Pelicans, ankle injury, out indefinitely. So sucks for those two guys.
Yeah, Pels are just in a hospital at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
they might as well move their arena to their local hospital because that's half their team's there right now.
It's bad.
It's so bad, bro. They injury bug is an understatement for this group.
Mm-hmm.
Franz Wagner out with the same exact injury as Paulo, torn right oblique. Like this, that's already a rare injury. And then for your two young star players, the core of your team, to get the same exact injury. And this is when Franz was absolutely balling. Like we're talking all-star. Yeah, we're talking all-star, possibly an all-NBA team. Possibly a contract extension, super max in that area is where Franz is playing at. So this just sucks for the Magic, and they continue to win. Like they're up there in the East standings. They don't have Franz or Paulo.
The only, I don't even want to call it a blessing in disguise because no injury is a blessing in disguise. But the only, I guess, positive you could take from this as a Magic fan is this might unlock Jalen Suggs as being a primary option because I think he's primary. He looked great. He looked really, really good in their game against Milwaukee when it was just him to try to carry his team. And, it might not be this year. It's probably going to be next year. But could be a sneaky young and a sneaky really good big three, homegrown big three with Paulo, Franz, and Suggs. The defense is all there. The outside shooting is there. Paulo, we saw before the injury kind of developed, that Suggs has been shooting the ball pretty well. Franz, like you said, Dunny, I mean, I think he was like averaging like 29, 7, and 6 or something during that stretch. I mean, and he was hitting the outside shots. Like, we already know what the Magic's like, role players are. We already know the type of style they play, that defensive style. It might not be this year, but if you can get all three of those guys healthy at the same time, have that kind of core, that's a sneaky good young core to build around right there. That's a sneaky young good big three, in my opinion. And this is Jalen Suggs, a guy who, coming out of Gonzaga, we thought was going to really just going to be one of the best players right off the bat. Sometimes it takes a little longer. He's got the defense figured out. He's one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA, and his offensive game is really starting to come along this year. I'm going to be curious to see if he's going to be the guy for the next month, averaging 25 plus a night for the Magic, because he has to be. He doesn't have an option. And sometimes when you get thrown in that situation, you have to be the alpha, you have to be the go-to guy. Sometimes you just play up to the moment. And I've watched Jalen Suggs from his entire collegiate career to his NBA career is he does step up when he needs to. He is one of those kind of when the lights are shining the brightest, he plays his best type of player. That might be the only positive takeaway from this is if you can get that unlocked like all the time from Jalen Suggs, this Magic team next year, watch out. Watch out.
Yeah, it's funny because that's kind of what happened with Franz when Paulo went out, because he was struggling over the summer for the international basketball. He was struggling at the end of last season. He wasn't playing poorly at the beginning of the season when Paulo was before his injury, but obviously the Paulo injury unlocked something with Franz where he's like, yeah, I can take over. And then, Steve, you just kind of laid out how Jalen in the few games we've seen without Wagner here, he had to step up as well. So it's definitely a great young core. I mean, these guys can play with anyone. They're not afraid of anyone. They've kind of let that be known the last couple of years here. So, injuries suck. Hopefully Franz and Paulo both back soon. Everyone we just talked about, hopefully they're back soon. One last thing, this isn't in the doc, but it came out after the fact. I had no idea Tatum wasn't going to play tonight for the Celtics, but he's managing some right knee. I forget the actual terminology, but he's dealing with something in his right knee. They just had like 4 days off and he's still out tonight. So little concerning there. They have another 3 days off after this game, so maybe it's a Max Strus situation because they're playing the Pistons.
NBA bye week. NBA bye week.
Yeah, and they're playing the Pistons, so maybe it's just added rest. But watch out for the Jason Tatum injury news there as well. All right, guys, we've made it to the NBA Cup, and we have 4 teams remaining: the Bucks, the Hawks, and the Rockets and the Thunder. Where do you guys want to start? You guys want to review the games from earlier this week?
We can, or we can just dive into these 4 teams.
I want to talk a little bit.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, do you guys watch Warriors Rockets last night at all?
I actually missed that game. It was my dad's birthday. Took him to the Sabres game, so I was a hockey fan for a rare night where I was a hockey fan.
What a son you are, bringing your dad to the Sabres game.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But I did see kind of the clip how the game ended, the no call. But I didn't see anything really leading up to that, Dunny. So I'll let you lead that one.
I really fucking like this Rockets team. I like D-Man when he's on the C's. It isn't really about that, but I just like the way he coaches, man. I like the way he gets his guys to play for him. Doris Burke had a nice little blurb about Tari Eason. I think she spoke with him before the game, and he just said everyone on this team has a voice, and they showed a little clip of Tari Eason kind of just getting into the guys in a timeout. And it's just cool when you have guys like 1 through 10 basically all respect each other on the same level. And it translates on the court. Like it can be any of Sengun's, Green's, Van Fleet's night at any given during any given game. And they all play defense, and they all play hard. And it might have been a bullshit call, which knocked the Warriors out last night. But I mean, it's also a credit to the Rockets for not giving up. And I like this group, and I'm happy they're advancing to the next round.
I mean, that's the game. The Rockets, if we're thinking about them for big picture, like looking at the playoffs and everything, if you're in the 90s with the Rockets, you're probably losing that game. I think that's what it comes down to, because they are so good defensively. It's so good situationally. Like the Warriors make that run in the third quarter, get it to a tie game. And even though it's close down the stretch, I just had they were down. I think they were down 3 with the last minute 15 or something like that, even too, before pulling ahead. And it's just everything is so difficult offensively for Golden State. down the stretch. And it's something that Ime has been able to do. And every single year he's been a coach. So you know that it can translate, and this team is getting more and more confident. It was really like I was equally as impressed as you were last night, Dunny. They were not afraid of the moment, showed up. It played the game to their style. And even though it's a close game, I think they would have told you they felt confident the whole way through because it wasn't flying up and down the court. It was grind it out. You're working for everything in this game. Sengun was awesome, dominated this game for large portions of it. It's just a really fun, versatile team that a team like Golden State, where they don't really have a lot of options offensively, like it's going to be driven through Steph. Steph had 19 points last night. Like Steph could not get loose. And maybe we could talk about the call at the end. They came with the 2-minute report and said that it was a correct call. Whatever. It was close. It was close, but it shouldn't come down to that. You're at 90 points if you're Golden State. They're not going to be happy. Even if they win and get to 93, they're not happy with their performance in that. So Houston played their game, got the dub, and those guys want to get paid. And they got a chance 2 games away, but the OKC matchup is going to be brutal. It's going to be a fun game Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a defensive team. You're going to play OKC. That I felt like every possession was getting a steal in the Mavericks game. I mean, OKC is one of the toughest defensive teams, in my opinion, in the entire NBA. And if you're Houston, yes, Sengun had a great game, 26 points. I think it was 11 rebounds. But you got to have a consistent second option. And I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but I just need to see more consistency out of Jalen Green before I take this team seriously when it really comes down to the playoffs and the big game moments. Because if you look last night, I think Jalen Green was 5 of 15 shooting, only had 12 points. You look at his last, I think it's 9 games, guys. I got it pulled up right here. He had 9 points, 41 points, 9 points, 28 points, 14 points, 31 points, and 12 points. You can't have that type of player. If that's going to be kind of your scorer, your go-to guy, you can't have the inconsistency where he's scoring 30 or he's scoring single digits. And when you're going up against a team like OKC in the semifinals, he's going to be in the torture chamber. We're going to be honest. And I'll tell you what, watching that Mavs game with Luka in the torture chamber, it was not a great sight to see. And I know it was one game. Luka played terrible. I'll admit that. Oklahoma City Thunder fans won't talk about what happened in the playoffs last year. Not a big deal. But the fact of the matter is that it was a bad night for Luka, but you have to credit OKC for that too. Yeah, he shot poorly. Yeah, he played bad. Kyrie didn't play great either. But you have to credit OKC too. And Houston, like I said, they don't really have too many, I don't want to say go-to options, but it really is go-to options. They have a great balanced team. They have a lot of guys who can kind of step up when they need to, but they don't really have that true go-to option after Sengun. And Sengun, I don't think it truly is a go-to scorer. He can score a lot. He can have really big games, but I think they want Jalen Green to be that guy. And it was just another game, like I said, against the Warriors, 5 of 15 shooting, 12 points. He would have a highlight reel play here and there, but then he just kind of disappears. And that's really what I need to see from Houston before I take him seriously, especially against a team like OKC, which, oh, by the way, guys, we're talking about NBA Cup here. This is a 1-2 matchup right now in the Western Conference. Yeah. Like this is like if you really truly believe in this Houston Rockets team, this is more than likely who you're going to have to beat in the Western Conference to get to the NBA Finals. So this is a huge kind of litmus test for the Houston Rockets, and to see if they can compete against a team like OKC, who isn't really at full strength. They don't have Chet Holmgren right now. But it's a tough OKC team. They're going to give everything to Houston. And like I said, I didn't watch too much of the Houston Warriors game, but the way just kind of seeing the highlights of that, seeing the box score, kind of seeing the end of the game, it's basically what Houston's been doing all year long. They've been winning these defensive games, and it's just kind of like one of their guys just kind of steps up each night. They have great depth. They have a great amount of options. I don't think that's going to be enough against an OKC team who, like I said, Shea is playing like an MVP right now. And their defense, man, the combination of Caruso and Dort. Good luck, Jalen Green. Good luck, because I feel a single-digit game in your future.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, man. And it's just nuts that the 1-2 seed is Thunder Rockets. I think they said during the broadcast last night that the Rockets are on pace for 55 wins right now.
Yeah,
which I don't think anyone could have guessed that, but I think I'm in agreement with you on that side. I think when that matchup does come, I think Thunder probably take care of business there just because of the way they made the Mavs look after, how hot that team has been playing. And like you mentioned, without Chet, a little bit about the Eastern Conference side. Knicks Hawks was the game in the quarterfinal. That first half of that game, the way the first half ended, you would have thought the Knicks were going to come out in the second half and win that game by 30.
Yep.
The Hawks said, "Oh no." They turned this thing on its head. Jalen Johnson, who's just been a beast, who we all love, had 21 points, 15 rebounds. Trae Young, I think, shot like 30% from the field and 20-something% from three, and it didn't matter. Like the Hawks just found a way to win this game. I really thought the Knicks were going to do it. They didn't. And now we have Hawks Bucks coming up this Saturday. I like the Hawks here, guys. I think it's going to be Hawks Thunder in the final. I'm curious to think what you guys think.
I kind of like the Hawks too. There's something about Trae Young when he plays the Knicks that just the villain. He was rolling the dice at the half court at the end of the game. I mean, there's just something about he just loves. I think some players just love kind of that villain role, and they just kind of play up for it, and he does. But Dunny, it's crazy because last year we're talking about the Hawks. It's like, oh, is Trae gonna leave? They got to blow it up. And now this year we're talking about they might be one of the most improved teams, one of these sneaky teams that you don't want to see. And yes, a lot has to do with the leap that Jalen Johnson has made. I know we were talking about this last night, guys, that he's my most improved player of the year right now, and I don't think it's particularly close. He's averaging, I think, like 20, 10, and 6 right now. Good shooting splits, playing great defense. But sometimes you're only as good as the players around you. Trae Young's great. Jalen Johnson's made the leap. But DeAndre Hunter off the bench. He's scoring 20 a night off the bench. I think he's averaging 19 a game coming off the bench this year. You have Dyson Daniels, who they just fleeced from New Orleans. I bet the Pelicans would like to have Dyson Daniels back now. He's averaging 3 steals a game. He's been a great option, one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. And it just feels like everything's just kind of clicking. Oh, by the way, this is the team that had the first overall pick. And even though he didn't play too great last night, they have pieces. They have a young core. Jalen Johnson's young still. This is a team that feels like they're built for the cup. They really do feel like they're built for the cup. And I say it all the time. Once it becomes like the NBA playoffs or these games, you really need that superstar to take over. They got it. Trae Young is a superstar. As much as people want to hate on Trae Young, as much as people want to discredit him, as much as people didn't like him because if he wants to be the villain, he wants to be the bad guy, he's a superstar. He's been proving it every single year, whether it's his scoring or his playmaking. And sneaky right now, Jalen Johnson is getting in that category of I can take over any game I want to. And that is a deadly combo to have, and I'm right there with you. I think they handle Milwaukee, and I would love an Atlanta OKC final. I would absolutely love an Atlanta OKC final because I'll tell you what, I know OKC favorites to come out of the West, but you guys right now, you guys are sitting pretty in the East, Celtics and Cavs fans, right? I don't think either of you want Atlanta. I don't think either of you would want a playoff series against Atlanta.
No, I really do not want.
I don't think either of you want a playoff series against Atlanta right now. And that's crazy because last year we'd be like, oh, Atlanta, whoever they're playing, that team's going to win in 5. And now it's like you want no part of that team.
It is crazy, man. I want to give credit to Quinn Snyder, who is an awesome coach in Utah. It wasn't great and pretty last year, but I think that the development of Johnson is obviously huge to what they've been able to do, especially defensively. He's been a menace, and getting the trade for Daniels too. It has been a huge move for them to just kind of work around Trae and everything. But man, this is a different level. And also I think just the big picture with at least three of these teams here, that money is that's like, these are young guys, like that money, that $500K each or whatever it is, that's a big deal to get coming out of this. I think you find some motivation from a Houston and an Atlanta to have that in these kind of scenarios. Now, when it comes to Milwaukee, because you look at their stats last game. I think Giannis had 37, Dame had 28, and Porter had around in the 20s, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else had double digits. Like, this is a team that they have nothing left on this roster really. Between it's Giannis. Giannis is doing what Jokic is doing right now with it, and he has maybe a better co-star in Dame, but a worse team overall. And I just don't feel confident picking them in any scenario. It's kind of crazy that they got by the other night against Orlando with that effort from that team, winning by 5. So I do think Atlanta, more motivated, comes into this, gets a win, and then they will be, if they played OKC, which I agree with you guys, I think OKC beats Houston. It's going to be like a 10. What is OKC, like a 10-point favorite in that game? Something like that. Like, that's going to be a big underdog opportunity for Atlanta. It'll be a fun game, but yeah, this Milwaukee team's confounding, and I really don't know what to do with them. So I just avoid them at all costs.
This is a Bucks team that does not need to be playing extra games at this point of the season.
That's true,
and that's where they find themselves. Like,
I think Giannis wants to just add to his legacy. Is that what's going on right now? Get the NBA Cup ring and
I do.
Something.
I think it's more than that. I think it's Giannis is just trying to carry this team, showing that he can't do it in Milwaukee. Because, we talked about how Giannis said at the start of the year, like, he didn't say he wanted to be traded, but he's saying, if we don't win a ship in here, who knows what's going to happen, right? Type of deal. And maybe Giannis does want to be in Milwaukee. Maybe he's doing whatever he can to be like, you know what, I can win here. Just get something around me. Because, I know Jokic has had an unbelievable year so far, but I don't think there's been any player who's really just put a team on his back this year quite like Giannis. This Milwaukee team would be a lottery team without Giannis.
Yeah, I've watched a few Bucks games where Giannis goes to the bench, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a tough one.
Prince started the other night and had 0 points.
I don't think he's scored in like 4 games.
No, he's also at the same time like one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. So this,
confounding. They don't make sense, bro. The team doesn't make any sense how they are structured and how they're 500 even. But that's how good Giannis is, and Dame too. How good they both been, but
it's crazy.
It's an uphill battle.
So do we all have the same picks here? We all think it's going to be
we're on
Atlanta, OKC.
We're on Atlanta, OKC.
Yeah, I got OKC over Atlanta in the finals.
You know what? I'm gonna take Atlanta.
Okay, I like it.
I think they're capable. Just because all the things we talked about, like they won that game against the New York Knicks, and like I said, Trae Young didn't even shoot well. He still did all his playmaking. I think he still had 11 assists, but didn't shoot well. Jalen Johnson stepped up. I think they're just frisky enough where I think they could catch OKC in a weird spot.
Best record since Thanksgiving, Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
And you're absolutely right. I do not want the Celtics to have to see them in like the first round of the playoffs this year.
What if the Cavs did that? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Please,
we can do
We'll
that.
get swept. It'll be over before it starts for the Cavs if that happens at this rate. Jesus.
Well, that's
Max
why I
Bruce
asked
is back. You guys are chilling.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you guys want to do a win total check-in here?
I would love to.
I just did this once through with my calculator, so I hope these numbers are correct, but I believe they are. We did our win total draft at the beginning of the season. For those who aren't familiar, we drafted every single team between the three of us. I believe I had the first pick. We did a snake draft, and a little check-in here. Jake is 131 and 113. Very, very big lead here for Jake. 122, 115 is my record, and Steve is 110, 135. The thing that stuck out the most on your teams, Steve, is that you had the Pelicans.
And Magic. I can't buy an injury right now.
Yeah. So the injuries are killing Steve there. Me getting the first pick and be able to choose my Celtics was awesome, but that also meant I got the last pick and I got stuck with the fucking Wizards. who might not hit double-digit wins. So
they're bad.
It was funny to look at because I wrote out all the records of the teams, and we all had some deep picks that have like 14 wins right now. So I do think Jake scooping the Cavs there is great because they're obviously have the most wins in the league right now, and they were not even a first round pick.
I got Houston and Cleveland and OKC in the top 4 rounds is what's upholding this for me right now. Because I also got Indiana and the Lakers who are just going to fall off a cliff in this season. So my squad here is very top heavy. So it could go downhill very quickly at some point here.
Minnesota's been tough for me too. In the first round, Minnesota, because I mean,
I did not see that coming.
I didn't see their struggles like that. I thought maybe postseason struggles, but regular season, I'm like, oh, this team won't struggle, and they've struggled a little bit. And then, like you said, the New Orleans. I mean, just what are you gonna do? But Donnie, I gotta give you credit. We're looking at the turn you had in round 8, 9, Hawks Clippers. The two teams no one wanted any part of at the start of the year. Round 8, 9, Donnie, you snuck in Hawks and Clippers, who both right now have been, I think, two of the best teams at exceeding their preseason expectations. Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, fingers crossed, like Kawhi's coming back, but they're doing it without him.
Yep.
Now you don't want him back. Stay home, Kawhi.
I am getting punished though for that. I drafted fucking Philly in round 5, and of course they're a dumpster fire. This is what I get as a Celtics fan.
It's what you get.
That's what you get. That's a team we were all avoiding. We were like, I
was like, I'll take the Sixers. But no, I love it. We're at a good spot. It's still anyone's game, I think. I think definitely mathematically, Jake obviously a sizable lead.
I'm telling you, I'm going to even out because of those. I got some teams that are going to fall off by the end of the year, so it's going to be an interesting race.
If Houston keeps pace, man, you're looking golden right now. But we'll keep you guys updated in a couple weeks. Right now, Jake 1, me 2, Steve 3. What do you guys want to do? The wheel spin first, or do you guys want an old man take from me?
Old man take and on the wheel. The wheel. You know how I feel about the wheel right now. Old man take.
No. Steve is anti-wheel right now. That's right.
Yeah, they did give us the Lakers, and we were forced to talk about Bronny and LeBron after we had already talked about.
Hey, Bronny update. Hold up. Bronny update before we give you your old man take for Steve here. Steve, Bronny is playing in his first road G League game.
Wow!
He's gonna play.
I hope he can handle that rowdy crowd.
The crowd might get to him, but he's gonna. Do it.
Oh man!
Just want to let you know.
Thanks.
Jake did say he was gonna come with the Bronny update, so
he always does.
And that I believe Shams did tweet that. So just crazy, we're getting reports about G League road games.
Well, Shams any other tweet anything else, he might get yelled at again. Tweets anything.
Davidson's playing a road game for the Maine Celtics tonight.
It would be a great subplot if this turns into agents just coming after Shams, and he has to go on like Get Up every morning and be like, "Here's what actually happened."
Instead of lying about Jimmy Butler, why don't you give us more Bronny updates, Shams? All right, I'm avoiding my old man take here. I don't know why. I don't even think it. I think it was Doris last night that got me, but this is something that I've noticed with broadcasters in general, and it's not all of them. And they're called old man take for a reason. I sound like a grumpy old man. I don't want my broadcasters using internet slang or TikTok terminology. I don't need Doris Burke saying he's in his bag like the fries at the bottom, like Chance the Rapper said 6 years ago in a rap song. I'm someone who I want my broadcasters to be knowledgeable about the game, the players, and I like an old school broadcast feel. I like it to be somewhat professional. I think there's for sure times to get excited. I think even though I'm saying this, I think there is times where you can throw in those, a rap lyric or something that the kids are saying and it can work. But I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Charlotte Hornets guy. Like, that's just not for me. I can't stand the screaming and the trying to use the young terminology and the TikTok phrases. I'm just not with it, man. It's not not my style of
who's really
basketball,
good.
but
You know who's really good, and like the younger people should take it. It's younger announcers should look at, and this is not just even going to be pandering to you, Dunny, but it's going to seem that way. Drew Carter is the best. He does not. He has some of these situations where he does like look for a line and does it, but it's not like forced.
Doesn't force it.
Right.
I hate it, and I agree that Doris, whenever she drops anything like that, it sounds like she's really trying.
Yeah,
like,
dude, I cringe on my couch.
We're there to hear you break down like the pick and roll that we just watched. Like,
and she's a great basketball mind. That's my point. It's like it's so almost when it bugs me, it's because it is forced. It's like these people that know basketball, but they're almost trying to
like bro, Hubie Brown has that parody Twitter account because of who Hubie is, just Hubie loving the game. It's not because Hubie's out here talking about, like you said, Chancellor. Like, he's not dropping lyrics, bro. Hubie's just talking ball. That's why we love Hubie.
Like, you don't always need to cater to the younger audience. Like, there's plenty of people who are in the middle grounds like me, or are older, who just want the game to be broken down. And I'm not trying to be a fun sucker. Like, you don't have to, be super professional or buttoned up all the time, but there's definitely people forcing it. The Hornets guy just can't stand the screaming and all his gimmicks. But he's good at it because people do like it, and he brings energy and it's unique. I'm not hating by any means by saying any of this, but it's my old man take, and this stuff's just not for me.
I don't hate it. I've always been on the side that I think the play-by-play guy should be more professional, and then the side they could be a color commentator, could be a little more out there, a little more outlandish. I mean, you're talking to the guy who watched the Pac-12 at night with Bill Walton as the color commentator.
Bill Walton, he could do whatever he wanted, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
But you can't get crazier than that, right? In terms of sidetrack, but also too, it just kind of worked because play-by-play is very professional, sticks to it. You got to have a little bit of that. I almost feel like when, and this isn't even basketball related, but when Tony Romo joined Jim Nantz, the first couple of years, people kind of saw like that kind of stark difference. And Jim Nantz is one of my all-time favorite commentators. I love when he does March Madness, love when he does golf, football, whatever. He's kind of more, professional, but you have kind of that one to play off. It's when, like you said, Donnie, with Charlotte, or sometimes ESPN feels that way, where they kind of almost try to force everyone to be a little more energetic, a little more, like you said, the terminology, a little more hip as the kids want them to be. And it feels forced. It doesn't feel genuine. And so I'm fine with the color commentary being a little more that way, but my play-by-play, just let me know what's going on in the game. I think some of the best play-by-play commentators are the ones that you don't ever want to talk over the game, right? A good commentator lets the game kind of talk for itself. They will let you know what's happening, but they're not going to try to be bigger than what is happening in the game. And I think sometimes certain commentators feel like they have to be to stand out because there's so many now. We talk about with all the different streaming services, right? All the teams have their own local broadcasts. You have all the streaming services with their A, B, C, D, E teams. It just goes on and on and on. And you kind of almost have to stand out if you want to try to get one of those big jobs. Because at the end of the day, they're probably trying out, so to speak, to get some of the bigger games, to get some of the bigger networks. But sometimes you just have to let the game speak for itself. And play-by-play commentators, I think the best ones are the ones where they don't try to make themselves feel bigger than the actual moment that's happening.
Yeah, for sure.
And I did color commentary in college, a little play-by-play for basketball. So I'm probably guilty of some of this stuff too. It is the old man take though, and I just bring what I'm feeling when I'm watching from my couch. And this past week, I noticed a little bit of that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. It makes me cringe sometimes. So that's what I brought to the people. Hopefully, some people agree. And sorry, Hornets broadcaster, if for some reason you're listening.
You do. All right, let's do it, guys.
All right, let's get the wheel and get the Hornets so we can go in on this.
Come on, wheel.
Oh, come on. This thing, it's a troll. I swear to God, it's a troll. Like, how does this happen? Does it hear us? What are we doing here? It's like
So
every week with you, Wheel.
if you're just listening and you're not viewing on YouTube, we got the Milwaukee Bucks, who we talked about approximately 7 minutes ago,
This
because
is
they're in the NBA
crazy.
Cup. They're in the semifinals. I guess what we can do with this, and I'll start us off if you guys are all right with that.
Yep.
The
Please.
Bucks are the 6th seed. They definitely turned it around from the start they had. This is a squad. Giannis is playing like the MVP. Dame's had some big moments here or there. We talked about Taurean Prince. He's one of the better 3-point shooters in the league this season. Realistically, though, can this Bucks group, without a move, can they win it all? Can they get through the East without making a move?
No.
There's zero chance.
They don't have enough.
I tend to agree.
They kind of been struggling from outside shooting too, and that's usually when the Bucks don't usually struggle. Like you said, you bring in a guy like Taurean Prince, you expect him to hit threes, and yeah, he's shooting 53% on the year. But there's games where he just doesn't score. He doesn't shoot.
Yeah.
Giannis does not shoot the three anymore. It's no longer in his game, and I think that's probably for the better for him. But he just doesn't shoot it anymore. Damian Lillard's shooting 37%. He shoots 9 threes a game, which is kind of crazy. And then you got Lopez. You got Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis. I think Middleton shooting 28% from three. It's just,
do they got Chris Middleton?
he passes.
Yeah.
He passes pretty well. He comes off the bench and he passes. That's
That game
pretty
against
much,
Orlando, he had 20 minutes, 8 assists, 0 points.
Yep, that's what he does. He comes off the bench. He just gets, for some reason, double teamed and passes the ball.
This is a guy who, like 4 or 5 years ago, was one of the best ISO scorers in the league.
Now, to be fair, he's played 3 games. We got to see him once he gets in the starting lineup.
Surgery. Yes.
So maybe that can be a difference maker. He is playing 20 minutes off the bench right now, so it hasn't been a huge role. But I mean, this is the same kind of story we talked about with the Milwaukee Bucks. It just feels like it's worse than last year, where it's like your outside shooting's inconsistent. You really don't. Dame's been better this year than I think he was last year. I think that's fair to say. But you really are living and dying by Giannis, and I just don't trust this team to hold up. I don't trust Gary Trent. I don't trust AJ Green. I don't trust Taurean Prince. I don't trust Chris Middleton. Bobby Portis, I guess, like, kind of know what he is, but yeah, he's fine. Brook Lopez, I don't trust anymore. Like, it's just, how far can Giannis carry you? And yeah, Giannis is great. Yeah, he's one of the top candidates for MVP, which, real quick, we don't care that an MVP is going to be a 7 or 8 seed now, but God forbid the past 2 years a 7 or 8 seed wins MVP. But regardless, there's too many good teams in the East right now. There's too many more deep teams. There's too many more balanced teams, and I think, teams are just going to see the Milwaukee Bucks and be like, all right, yeah, Giannis can have 40 and 15. That's fine. Well, we'll give Giannis 40 and 15, and we'll still win the game. Because that's what he's been doing all year long. I mean, he scored 56 points, and they lost to the Wizards?
Yeah.
Or, sorry, not the Wizards, the Pistons.
I was going to say, that was Jokic.
Pistons. Jokic was the 56. Sorry, the other MVP candidate. The other MVP candidate was the 56 and lost to the Wizards. Giannis beat the Pistons in overtime, excuse me, on his 50-plus point game. The MVP candidates struggle against the Wizards and the Pistons. I apologize on that one.
Can I say something about Giannis? And this doesn't come from a place of hate. I will say this first. Giannis is one of the better players I've ever seen. Certainly one of the better players of this generation. One of the better rebounders I've ever seen play in person. One of the better interior scorers I've ever seen play in person. The MVP stuff was weird for me because, yes, he puts up these numbers. Yes, the only reason the Bucks are in this place they are right now is because of Giannis. But when I watch full Milwaukee Bucks games, and I've watched 3 already this year in totality because they've played the Celtics 3 times, and then I've watched a few Bucks games here and there. On the court, when the games are happening, yeah, the box score at the end sometimes looks like he's the MVP. Sometimes in these games, when I watch, though, and I don't know if that's just because he's so good and we've seen it for so many years now that I'm numb to it, but sometimes I watch the games and the Bucks half court offense. I don't look at Giannis and I'm like, yeah, this is a guy who is the MVP. He's the most valuable player.
Yeah, sometimes
I just don't see it.
No, sometimes it feels like he just kind of goes through the motions. I watch Bucks games, Dunny, and I'm right there with you where I'm just like, why doesn't he just run at the basket every possession?
Right.
Why doesn't he do that? Because you're like, oh, what's Giannis would do? It's like, oh, he's taking one shot. I'm like, he's been on the court for 10 minutes. How? How is Giannis taking one shot? And then next thing you know, he has 24 points because the next quarter he's ran at the basket to 12 straight possessions. So I think you're right. I feel like Giannis, he can take over pretty much any game he wants. I think we've all become accustomed to that, and we've seen it from Giannis. But it could be just, I don't want to say lack of effort, because I don't think it's lack of effort, but this could be just a fatigue thing too, right? I mean, it's like he is carrying this team. There's no doubt about it. And sometimes you want the other guys to step up, and they just don't.
If I was a Bucks fan, like the 17 footers and deeper would just like kill me when I see Giannis take those. I'm like, oh, if I was a Bucks fan, I would hate that possession. And I think they have to settle a lot for that, whether it's Dame or Giannis. Like, I just think this is a team who settles a whole bunch in their half court offense. And sometimes I watch Bucks games and I'm just like, this is Giannis and he's amazing, but I don't know. I don't see it as the MVP, and maybe it's because where they're at in the standings right now. Like, if they were 1-2 seed, I'm sure I would have a different tune. But that's just something I kind of thought about with Giannis this year, and I had never really thought that way before. But now I watch him and just some there's a bad taste in my mouth when I watch the Milwaukee Bucks, even with them kind of turning around a little bit here.
Yep, right there with you.
Does that do it for our Bucks talk?
Yeah,
that's all right, Bucks. See you later, guys. The wheel is just a troll, and we just have to realize that it's going to happen every week. It'd be surprised if it doesn't, because it's been like we had. I remember the Lakers. It happened one time. The Knicks. It's happened one time. Can't remember who was it last week, because it happened.
It was Lakers last week.
It was Lakers, and then we started talking about the Sixers. We got so mad it was Lakers.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, we're at the mercy of the wheel. We asked for this, and
the wheel owns the show.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, is that gonna do it, fellas?
Yeah. What about you, Wheel? You got anything else?
The wheel is tossed away. There's the see you later wheel. All right, fellas.
Thank you all for listening to the Happy Hour Hoops podcast presented by Trainwreck Sports. Steve, Jake, myself. We'll check in next week. Hopefully there's some more Shams, Jimmy Butler's agent drama. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it.